With us this morning is Ron Miller. He is the representative for the 93rd Legislative here in Pennsylvania and has been in the State House for a while, State Assembly, and now is the Republican candidate for the March 18th special election. That's for the seat of Mike Wall, recently vacated, the 28th Senatorial Seat. Mike will now become the head, and is actually the head of the farm show in Harrisburg. And we're talking about Ron Miller. Ron, good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Gary. Good to talk to you.
Great to have you. And what, 59 votes you got last night compared to, I guess, 8 for Zachary Hearn, 7 for William Andy Anderson. So congratulations. Looking to run there in March 18th.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I look forward to this.
Ron, when you look at the whole thing right now, talk a little bit about being a representative in Harrisburg and now seeking the senatorial seat. I know there are other people going to be running against you on May 20th, but on March 18th, not so much. This whole process has raised a little bit of controversy right now, and wanted to get your thoughts. You've probably heard a little bit about that here and there. Your thoughts about the controversy that it's raised.
Well, I understand why some people have concern, but basically, the senator resigned to take another position. The lieutenant governor, the Senate, called for a special election to fill that seat.
Right.
So basically, I'm faced with this is the hand that was dealt, so it's the hand we have to play.
Was this a? I guess a lot of people are asking, Ron, was this a pat hand set in advance as opposed to a process that's taking some time? You know, a lot of people say, well, March 18th, you're kind of rushing, and you and I were kidding on the phone yesterday, but really, whenever I hear about government rushing to do anything, I start reaching for my wallet. In this case, it's not about the wallet. It's about, do we have enough time to consider the candidates, or have we had enough time so far to consider the candidates? And I guess the other question that was raised this morning, if you heard Nick Pandelitis beforehand here, he was saying, well, do we want to just keep other candidates out right now? And you know me well enough, I don't have a horse in this race. I'm just looking at the process and trying to look at it honestly. Your thoughts about that?
I think what people have to understand is that this position that the senator took, he knew it was becoming available last summer. And I think he would have preferred to have taken the position last summer. But if you remember, last August 9th, he announced that he would not be running for re-election.
Right.
But he also announced that he was dealing with some medical issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the only reason that he didn't do it last summer, make this move.
Right.
I am very happy that his health is good.
Nobody. I think we're all right there with you on that one, Ron.
Right, and I agree. I think everybody's there and can appreciate that. So once that progressed to the point that he knew that things were going to be okay, then he decided that was the time to make the move. I can't fault him on that. It wasn't my decision. As far as the Senate deciding to call a special election, remember, the 28th Senate seat is the only Senate seat in York County that's contained totally in York County. It truly is the keystone. The other senators are good people. Vance, Holloway, Smucker, Teplitz, they're good people, but their focus isn't York County.
Right.
We're headed into tough budget negotiations. There's a lot of other heavy issues on the plate. And unlike the House, I can be a little partisan on this. Unlike the House, where the Republicans have a fairly significant majority, the Senate, with the senator's resignation, is down to 26-23. So I can understand why they would like to have this election take place heading into really tough negotiations on a lot of issues.
What is the negotiation period we usually talk about with regard to the budget? Is there a prime period of the year that we really get into that? Because it seems like we're kind of at the beginning of the process there in terms of the budget. Am I right or wrong on that?
Well, you're right as far as the governor makes his budget address very soon.
Right.
And then, you have budget hearings that will be ongoing, both in the House and the Senate. But you really get into April, May, where you're really into the nuts and bolts of trying to figure out exactly how you're going to structure this budget and what you can get the votes to get done. Then basically, if things hold true, for the past 3 years' budgets of this governor, we'll have the budget done before July 1st.
Yeah, which has been refreshing, by the way, and yet at the same time, not everybody's agreed, as they never will agree on all the things that's happening, the things that are happening in the budget right now. I guess what I want to ask you, Ron, you've been around this for, about 16 years now? You've represented the 93rd, right?
Correct.
Okay. So a lot of people touted your experience as a lawmaker, and again, we appreciate your service. But we look at this whole thing and we say, okay, you're talking about the really important stuff out there: pension reform, property tax. You talk about anything that's coming up right now. And yet I look back and I say, all right, we've had 40 years of these discussions about property tax since 1972 or so. Pension reform has been out there being talked about by people on Main Street for a long time, and yet we don't see pension reform yet, except maybe the governor's proposal out there. Nobody seems to want to have the courage to take that up. And so a lot of people are saying, what really has the state done in terms of the assembly in making those big changes in our lives? Because they are big ones right now that are really facing a lot of people in this state. And would an extra month and a half really make a heck of a difference on that? I mean, you'd still be a representative during that time, but obviously you're going to have your eyes on what's going on there. Would it, with something going on like that, do we think all of a sudden in a month and a half things are going to change radically? Just my thought.
Oh, and I appreciate that, Gary, but look at the property tax issue. We've talked about this many times in the past, that many areas of the state don't have the issues with property taxes we do.
Right, I know that.
91 Casey administration, we quit counting students, changed the funding formula. If we don't have a senator in the mix that understands the growth areas of the state, why York County has been impacted by property tax increases more than Jefferson County or Indiana County.
Or Windber, a place like that, Johnstown, so forth.
If we don't have a senator in the mix that is willing to advocate for our needs, the property tax bill may not get done in the Senate. It may not get done. We need to be able to push this now. It needs to be part of the budget negotiations. If we're going to start changing the property tax scenario the way this goes, we might have to change the education funding formula. So it all plays in. They're not mutually exclusive. Now, I'm not telling you that my being elected to the Senate on March 18th is going to magically change the whole world, but at least York County has a voice in the fight that understands what the issues are.
But you only have a voice really for a month and a half, and then you got to run again, right? As far as the primary is concerned, for the full term. I guess a lot of people.
Actually,
go ahead.
Actually, the voice would be till the end of November.
Right. I was just about to add that, but I guess a lot of people are thinking, well, would there, as far as the election itself? You mentioned about a special election. Okay, you made a pretty good point on this, but. I know Chris Riley sent a letter up to the lieutenant governor the other day. We had him on yesterday. And the idea was you're spending $200,000 for, an election here in York County, a month and a half before you have the next election. Now, just on the merits of the election, I know you're a guy who wants to save money for us in the state. You've been working on that for a long time with other legislators. But so if we want to save money, $200,000 for an election here on March 18th that could be held on the same day as May 20th to do the same things, wouldn't that make more sense? Because, even though we get reimbursed, we're still getting reimbursed from us, from the taxpayers, just coming from a bigger pool, the state pool, as opposed to a local pool, right?
I'm not going to debate your point, Gary. The point is that there has been a resignation. The lieutenant governor has called a special election.
Right.
Whether I ran or not, that issue is still there.
Well, you're not even on the table here on this. I'm just talking about the process. And if we truly value the tax dollars, and everybody says in the state that they value, it seems to me that this could have been consolidated. And again, I don't know that a month and a half more, or I think it's 13 legislative days, if I'm not mistaken, would have made a big difference on this.
Well, I'm not sure that we'll know that until the process plays out.
Yeah. Are you proud of what the state assembly has done in your years that you've been there? Do you feel like Do you feel like there's a comfortability factor that a lot of these guys get into when they get there? I mean, I'm sure people of goodwill are there, but we've also seen people of bad will who are now serving in a different capacity in our state prisons. Do you feel like you can get into a comfortability factor, and what do you do to fight that?
Well, I think what you have to do is look at the things that you have accomplished and recognize the things that have not been accomplished and continue to work on them.
Yeah.
I think, we did significant work last session on the unemployment comp system. Because of the downturn in the economy, we borrowed billions of dollars from the federal government that has to be paid back. So we had to address that. And in a bipartisan way, we got it done. It wasn't easy, but, it's done. By 2019, we should have the system back on level solvent field where the federal government's been paid off and the system's solvent again. I can look at transportation and say, what we did during the Rendell years was terrible. That bill was rolled out. I was on the transportation committee at the time, and when the bill came to committee, we had a first page and a last page and 80 blank pages in between. Mm-hmm. It was like, let's pass this out of committee. We'll address it when we get to the floor. You'll see the rest of it. So things like that, I lament. It's terrible. I voted against it. But, you can only weigh in. You have one vote. You represent the people the best you can, and then you stand for re-election or not. But, that's all you can do.
Yeah. I just sense, and the people I talk to, and I have a chance to talk to a lot of people every day, Ron, as you all know, and there's an uneasiness that people say, well, we can tend to get stale. You hear a lot about term limits talk and things like that. And there's an uneasiness that we need fresh ideas in there. Now, again, I'm not rooting for anybody in this. I'm just simply asking opinions. But your thought about that. I mean, do the ideas, do we have an influx of enough new people there and new ideas? Or does it become a defense of the status quo, so to speak?
Well, I think you need to pull out the data and look at the turnover in the legislature over the past 10 years. I actually have a spreadsheet, and I don't have it with me, so I can't tell you what it says. Right. But I think the average length of service right now is somewhere between 8 and 10 years. Mm-hmm. Democratic caucus is longer than the Republican caucus in the House. But, to say, there has been significant turnover in the legislature, and you always get into the position. Let me give you one quick example, and then I'm going to have to run to this next meeting.
Yeah, but I have to run to a segment too. Go ahead.
But here's an example of it. I went to a seminar of the National Conference of State Legislators this past year, and they wanted the people in the state that dealt with energy issues in the legislature, mm-hmm. and I chair the House Environmental Resources and Energy Committee, to attend this seminar because of the fact with the states that have term limits and with the states that have part-time legislatures, there isn't a lot of institutional knowledge about how the energy issues need to be coordinated between the states' energy policies. So they started this seminar that they put on,
right?
And it's very intense. So there's pluses and minuses. Remember, Ohio has a term limit. And what happens there often is a person runs for the House, serves there 8 years, 10 years, whatever the term limit is, and then runs for the Senate. And they actually flip-flop. So, I think in the end, the whole thing is up to the control of the voters.
Ron, I appreciate you taking the time to be with us this morning. Congratulations again on being chosen last night, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
My pleasure, Gary.
Thanks so much, Ron. Take care. Ron Miller with us here on the Gary Sutton Show. We'll be back with a few more comments. We'll take a few of your calls here. And then at 10:05, we'll take your calls. This much ado about nothing for this March 18th thing. You heard Ron Miller this morning talking about giving his views. We'll give you a chance to give your views as well, starting in about 3 minutes, and then 10:05 on. Here on the Gary Sutton Show, we're talking about the Senatorial seat, the 28th Senatorial seat left vacant by Mike Wall. Thank you again to Ron Miller for joining us. And maybe this is much ado about nothing. You can decide the next half hour, and it's your turn to make the call at 1-800-357-0910. You can hit me at Twitter at Gary G. Sutton, or you can go on to Facebook.com/910WSBA, or if all else fails, go to Gary.Sutton@Cumulus.com. That's my email, and I'll read those. In fact, I'm reading one right here, just came in from a listener, and he said, I'm listening to you this AM, heard that Ron Miller will be on your show. I've known and respected Ron for many years. I'm not sure if he's become one of the political establishment or not. I would like you to ask Ron's opinion. I just got this, so I apologize for not asking this, but I'll ask you. What constitutes political corruption at the local level? Is political corruption a crime? I'm not suggesting that Ron is or ever has been involved in political corruption. I would just like to hear his opinion, and that came from a listener this morning. So here's the layout of the land. If you're really trying to understand this whole thing, and I'll tell you what, before we get to that, I do have Scott Wagner on the line. You heard him mention this morning, too, and let's bring Scott in. Scott, good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, Gary. How are you doing?
Scott, I'm doing well. Good to talk to you. Your thoughts. You heard the interview, and I know you were scheduled to be in this March 18th special election. You dropped out. You're going to be running on May 20th in the primary, obviously, for next year's seat. But your thoughts about this whole thing?
Well, Gary, the whole special election was engineered. Senator Wall announced his retirement from his Senate term,
right?
And then and when he announced back in August that he was not going to run again, in early September I announced my candidacy, and I had meetings with Senate leadership. I met with Dominic Pledgey, and he was very clear that there are members of the Republican caucus that don't like me, and he kept bringing up. He kept referring to CAP, Citizens Alliance of PA, and I'm a CAP supporter. I'm not the only CAP supporter, but he just kept bringing up that there are people in the caucus that don't like me, and it's become very apparent that he has been spending a lot of time recruiting someone to run for this position. And then let's fast forward to about 2 weeks ago. On a Sunday evening, effective at midnight, Mike Wall announces his resignation. 12 hours later, the governor appoints him to be the executive director of the Farm Show. 3 hours later, the lieutenant governor comes out with a special election date. 21 hours later, Ron Miller announces his candidacy. And it's just really unfortunate that it's happening the way that it's happening. But let it be. Ron he's in his 8th term in Harrisburg. He is now in his 16th year, and Ron is as close to a career politician as you can get.
Go ahead, Scott.
So, but it's unfortunate. It's a tragedy that it's going to cost the taxpayers, about $250,000. There's 111 precincts that have to be manned. They're going to have to put a minimum of 2 machines out at each precinct. But here's something else that people don't know. If Ron
I just have about a half a minute with you. I apologize. I've got a hard break coming up, but go ahead.
Well, here's another thing that people don't know, that if Ron does win the special election, then he resigns his House seat. They're going to have another special election, and that's going to cost $250,000.
And if we use the same thing that we need somebody in there at the table, you're going to have it fairly quickly, too. So that's something that people ought to hold their feet to the fire on, because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. My thought, and Scott, and I don't know if I'd vote for you. I don't know if I'd vote for Ron or somebody else. But my thought is, would it really be so bad to take this to the 20th, have one election, and have the special election then, where I think we're on the side of democracy, giving people a chance to be heard and known a little bit better? That would be my only thought on the whole process, again, with no horse in this race.
I'm on a radio winner.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Scott, I got to run.
May 20th?
Yep, and I've got to run to a break. I apologize for the short time, but I do appreciate you calling in, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon, all right?